imagine a new idea in a new direction in which they can take Nickelodeon Kart Racers for if it comes out this year, and if they do end up going this direction for a game. And none of these games for the Nickelodeon Kart Racer series has a single player, a story mode, or an adventure mode. And I came up with my own sort of plot and ideas, and even someone else was curious about what if they were to make a story for this game. What's your ideal thoughts on a story mode or adventure mode, or what they could do to make this game much bigger and better? And I think Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4 can be so much greater than what this game is and what it was, because there's not many people playing the game now, and you get a select few people that are just picking up the game for now, and even from what I've seen are trying to get the unlockables and more. But they can change so much more and go above and beyond for the game, outside of it being by making it crossplay, so you're not trying to search forever online trying to find players, and matchmaking when it's very tough to find players on the servers nowadays, since the game's been out for a couple of years. So I think this is probably the year we'll probably end up getting one. So as you guys listen in, you guys can share your thoughts in the live chat on what you guys think they would probably do. Maybe some of your own ideas, maybe even in the comments. The comment section, you could post your ideas of where they could probably go and how they could probably implement a story or some kind of adventure mode. But when you come on here and you start playing this game for the first time, the single player only consists of the Grand Prix, which is the slime scramble, the free race, where you could just play on any track of your choice and any characters that you have already unlocked, time trials, and the challenges in the arena. And I want to open up the challenges before I get started. And that's how I wanted to build the story. Yeah, I wouldn't mind seeing the challenges return, but the challenges can also contain separate other additional bonus characters that can be unlockable. And with this story that I came up with for this plot, that I'm going to have to get ready to get into, I wanted to go a little bit further and just something bigger than what it is for these challenges. Because when you start playing this, once you complete a certain amount of challenges, you can unlock the boss, and you could go straight to the boss and race against the boss character and unlock them. See how it says beat the boss and you get a new character? I wanted to do something similar to this with this story. And when you beat these antagonists and these villains that I'm going to talk about, I wanted to do something more than what we have. We got 6 bosses. I really hope we do more. I hope we get a lot more bosses and unlockable characters from new shows and new reps. And let's not stack up on the same shows. Let's stop coming out with some of the characters that's just taking over the slots. And when it comes to kart racers, a kart racing or a racing game now, since it no longer matters in platform fighters where the slots are no longer a thing anymore, in kart racing or any sort of racing game like this series, the slots matter, and characters can miss out. Characters can get cut, and characters can get replaced by a different series, and they stack up, or they make different versions of the characters from the past. For example, SpongeBob and Captain Patrick. There's so many other things that go into factor. So from these tracks and things like that, let's just pick a random one so y'all can see some of these characters. Just like these two, for example, we got SpongeBob, Patrick, Sandy, and Squidward. They could do more with just the challenges, can consist of maybe some other bonus characters. You could put some of them in there, but characters like Shredder being cut and becoming a boss, well, not becoming a boss, but just being a crew member. They made a lot of different changes. Even characters like Tommy Pickles getting the boot and just basically being eliminated from this game's existence. So they could definitely bring him back and more, and he could be a challenge boss, a special challenge boss that you can unlock and more. But just looking at these characters and just talking about the plot for the story, but I want to bring up real quick, let's go back to the challenges and keep it on there for a little bit, because that's what I was thinking about when I was trying to come up with some ideas for this story. It didn't really have a single player mode. You just play the Grand Prix and you race off against some of these bosses in the game, and then you can unlock them all from there. But with this story for the plot, and something I wanted to do a little bit differently, it's not just going to be a story mode or some kind of adventure mode. I wanted to make it a challenge for the player, so they're not blazing through the game in one weekend. Let's give them a challenge, let's give them a fight, and be able to earn these characters and really learn the game and just be in for a real challenge in Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4. And one thing I did, just doing some research, I was looking up some different racing types of games, or types of games, or the racing games. There's not many roguelike racers. So I wanted to go with a new roguelike racing and implement that factor. See what they did for Nickelodeon All-Star Raw 2? They turned the campaign into a little bit of a roguelike. You lose, you got to start over. But you get to keep everything that you earned. And that's what I wanted to do with this sort of story, or this adventure mode, to make it a roguelike story, a roguelike adventure mode. And just talking about this plot, characters from your favorite Nickelodeon series from past to present compete in a huge slime tournament in this adventure mode, where you play as SpongeBob and you meet more of his friends and other heroes across the NCU and race to the finish to become the fastest in not only just Bikini Bottom, but in the world. And what I did, I wanted to open it up a little bit more. Race against, in this, you're going to also race against a major group of villains known as the Forces of E.V.I.L in each hub world, who plan to claim world domination. And I wanted to give the story a main antagonist. I don't want to just settle for that. I wanted to give it a main antagonist. Anybody out there remember Meldar Prime? Meldar Prime from Jimmy Neutron, he's an iconic villain, and I think he only appeared one time, and I think he could be a perfect host for this tournament and for these kind of games, where you have to win to rescue and basically be able to free that planet or that world from being destroyed. Because Meldar Prime is going to be targeting all types of different worlds from the NCU, and I think this would be really cool to see put together. And SpongeBob's not going to be by himself. I wanted to put SpongeBob with potentially, I just had a little bit of a conflict, I was a little bit conflicted. I had my first idea with this. They could do SpongeBob and Patrick together in the paddy wagon. And then on top of that, as another alternative, how about SpongeBob behind the wheel with Mrs. Puff to travel together? And Mrs. Puff is always so scared every time SpongeBob gets behind the wheel. She's going to have no choice but to be around SpongeBob and go along for this ride to try to rescue these planets and prevent them from being destroyed by Meldar Prime. It's not just going to be Meldar Prime pulling the strings, but he's also going to have some other iconic villains that's going to aid him in his quest with his journey, or basically his goal of destroying these planets. Remember, if you guys watched Jimmy Neutron Win, Lose, Kaboom, of course they're probably going to to get a different voice actor, probably, potentially. The voice actors don't matter to me. Let me say this. Voice actors don't matter. Oh, they didn't get the original OG voice actor for that so-and-so, or that's their character. For me, it never matters, because you got all sorts of talent out there in the world that can utilize these characters and be able to play that role very well. See what they did with Zuko? He's a pretty good Zuko, and it's not the original voice actor from the show. It doesn't have to be that way. So they could get someone else to voice Meldar Prime. Anybody remember him? And I'm just very curious. I think he's one of the best villains, and no one really talks about him too much as often now. And they already got Jimmy Neutron. Let's bring up the characters real quick. And we're going to start talking about more about the summary and the plot and his intentions. Let's just go to the garage. They got Jimmy Neutron and Cindy, so they already got the rights to Jimmy Neutron. What's stopping them from getting Meldar Prime to be able to host this slime tournament in these games, where you have to, win or you lose everything? It'll be pretty sweet. And it's a roguelike racing, or a roguelike story, or a roguelike adventure mode. You got Jimmy and Cindy, and then they didn't stop there. Yeah, they're the two playable characters that represent Jimmy Neutron. But guess what? Haven't seen it? They got Sheen, Goddard from Jimmy Neutron, and then you head over to the crew members. You got Carl, Libby, Nick Dean, Hugh Neutron, and Judy Neutron. You got all those characters. See, Jimmy Neutron, we saw Sheen. See, let's go back. See, Jimmy Neutron, say that's 2, 3, 4 for Goddard. 5, 6, 7, 8. You got almost 10 different. You got almost 10 different Jimmy Neutron characters represented from that show. So they can't get another one, like Meldar Prime and many other villains that can join in. So this they definitely can get. They could get even more Jimmy Neutron reps, and I think Meldar Prime would be a good host for this story of pulling these strings. And let me just start talking a little bit more. Meldar Prime is just a good fit because he abducts the various alien race and forces them to compete in these various games and challenges from the show he presented, where the winning team got a space car and then the losing team's home planets were blown up. Anybody remember that? So it just kind of made me think of that whole Jimmy Neutron special, and I think he could be a really good antagonist or main antagonist of this story. And then just to add on to this, to talk about more of what I came up with, these Nicktoons Hubs can feature all types of several tracks for all different worlds. Bikini Bottom, you already got Jimmy Neutron. You got Jimmy Neutron, Bikini Bottom. So I put SpongeBob and Patrick together in a paddy wagon, or maybe SpongeBob could be with Mrs. Puff in a boatmobile to traverse around these Nickelodeon hubs. And he's also going to be able to meet these other heroes from Danny Phantom and more to help them out and free their world of being targeted and destroyed. So other Nicktoons Hubs, Bikini Bottom, the Loud House, I also threw in, Danny Phantom I just mentioned, and then many more that can get in. Korra, the Legend of Korra. Head on down to the world of Hey Arnold. Run into Arnold, Helga. See how cool that would be? And they can race against these villains and beat them. Danny Phantom and more. The Ninja Turtles. It'll be really cool to see this. Going on down to the junkyard, run into Blina and Ickis. Help them out. See what I'm saying? They could do a lot of different things. And then for hub world examples, I wanted to talk about the hub world examples can feature 4 tracks to gather slime trophies as my idea. Let's just pull up the slime scramble or the Grand Prix. I could just go to free race if I want to. I'll just go to, let's just go here. So I'm not gonna race or anything like that. See how each cup has 4 tracks. So these hub worlds, and it's almost not even gonna try to play around. So it almost makes you think a little bit of Crash Team Racing, right? A little bit. But that's where I got the little bit of the inspiration from. For these hub worlds examples could feature 4 tracks to gather these slime trophies, but a little bit of a mix that Crash Team Racing does not do. The unique hero encounters. So I came up with hero challenges. So the unique heroes encounters, or the hero challenges, SpongeBob and Patrick, or maybe SpongeBob and Mrs. Puff together will run into different characters, like you see like Cat Dog and then Garfield and many more. Let's just use Jenny for example, Jenny Wakeman or XJ9. SpongeBob can run into SpongeBob, Patrick, and SpongeBob and company. They'll be able to run into Jenny, and she won't know if SpongeBob is what SpongeBob's real intentions are, because she doesn't know him. So she's gonna challenge SpongeBob to a race to earn his trust. See what I'm talking about? How cool would that be? You see the different things that they can do? These hero challenges in these hub worlds, outside of just beating the tracks, just come in first place in all 4 tracks and then you beat the boss. Let's do a little bit more. I want us to do more with it. These hero challenges will be implemented in these hub worlds to make the campaign or the story a little bit longer, and it lasts longer, things like that. The hero challenges will consist of just being able to race against Jenny Wakeman and Trey Merton, and she will join you, and you can play as those other characters. You can play as those other heroes exclusively in that hub world, and you also can unlock them. Jenny Wakeman, and you gonna run into. Let's get some of the other additional characters that's not just main characters. You're gonna run into Aang, you're gonna run into, you know, Zuko and Katara could be a playable racer. They could do things like that. Danny Phantom that I just mentioned earlier, you're gonna race against them. They're going to challenge you. They're going to challenge SpongeBob, and you have to defeat them in a race to get them to join your alliance and join the cause to help their world. It's going to be a lot of fun, and I think this will be really cool to see implemented. I just chuck you in here. Let's get Tommy back in the game. You can run into some of these characters in the hub world, and they will challenge you to they'll challenge you to a race for the hero challenges, and when you win, you gotta win to be able to unlock the character. And then as you go on and complete the 4 tracks, you'll be able to take on the bosses. Now, the bosses from the Forces of E.V.I.L, I got this really just one little page tribute. The Forces of E.V.I.L villains. You know, evil is lemons. Anybody remember that? That's why I came up with this. And I never seen this group of villains being utilized in a video game before. They haven't been used in any of the SpongeBob games. Somebody could tell me in the chat if it's wrong, or maybe in the comments. If you know a game that's out there from SpongeBob or a Nickelodeon title, where the Forces of Evil is lemons, has been utilized. So I wanted to call this group of people that Meldar Prime is in charge of, this Forces of Evil is lemons, they're gonna all band together. So the bosses in these hub worlds can consist of multiple antagonists to represent the worlds with high difficulty and rubber banding included. Maybe it sounds too tough and difficult, but that's what it's the point of a roguelike when you start playing the game. So it's not gonna just be a walk in the park. I wanted to give a challenge to the players, so they're not gonna blaze through it in one weekend. You're gonna have to know what you're really doing when you start playing the game, and you might lose a few times. So I thought the bosses can be represented. Let's use this one. This is Jelly Meadows for something like that, or Jellyfish Fields, whatever you want to call it. The Forces of Evil can be bosses, and they can be unlockable after successfully winning the gauntlet of that world. So let's just use SpongeBob for example. They'll have like 4 SpongeBob tracks for, like, you know, Bikini Bottom, things like that. The Krusty Krab, Rock Bottom. I'm just gonna throw some tracks out there, for example. Hub world examples of tracks like Bikini Bottom, Goo Lagoon, Rock Bottom, the Krusty Krab, and the Chum Bucket. Some hub worlds might have more than 4 tracks. Maybe they could do something like that and mix up 4 or 5 different tracks as a bonus track. That's going to be a little bit tougher. So as you play these hub worlds, you'll be able to play those tracks and then take on the bosses. So when you're in the hub world of Bikini Bottom, which is SpongeBob's universe, you're going to be able to take on Plankton with Karen, Man Ray, Flats the Flounder, the Flying Dutchman, and then I also added in Doodle Bob. So all those characters from his show is just going to be added, and you're going to have to be able to race against all those bosses all into one in one gauntlet. If you lose a race, you got to start over. See what I'm talking about with the roguelike little aspect of it? That's what I wanted to do and implement. So you're not just having a breeze, you're going to breeze right through it. They're going to catch up to you pretty fast. So you got to be drifting, you got to know the shortcuts. They'll use the shortcuts on you, and they'll have a little bit of their special items. They could do all types of stuff with that and have their own abilities. Yeah, they're going to catch up to you with rubber banding, but you can be able to stop them and slow them down so you could be able to win. So as you successfully be able to surpass and beat the gauntlet of that world, you can unlock Plankton, Man Ray, Flats the Flounder, Flying Dutchman. They all are becoming playable characters. You see the roster building up because you have more villains and you have more reps of those shows getting into the game, and they're not just crew members. You can play against them and win and face off against them if you are successful in winning the boss gauntlet. Every hub world has a boss gauntlet that I wanted to put together, so you can pick the characters, and the characters that you earned or you met from the heroes challenges, like Jenny Wakeman for example, could be able to get to become playable when you start playing the game and playing the story. So every hub world is going to have a different set of bosses, forces of evil, that's going to try to slow you down and stop you. And just like I said, if you lose a race, you have to start over from that first boss that you already started from that particular hub world. So let's say, for example, you're in Retroville, you lose against Professor Calamitous, or Evil Jimmy Neutron beats you. You have to start over from that very first boss of that particular hub world. So that way, it creates a challenge for the player. And then just these forces of evil, I think this is something really cool that just never has been brought up before, that hasn't been utilized in the game. Yeah, it was in SpongeBob, but it wasn't in a SpongeBob game. It wasn't in a Nicktoons title. I think Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4 could be so much better and be one of the greatest titles from the Kart Racer series with this kind of story and this challenge. So each defeated boss, as I mentioned, that I wanted to also do, as you go through this gauntlet, each defeated boss will increase the challenge of the next racer. So not many roguelike racers out there. That's why I wanted to do something like this for Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4 for the story mode. So I thought this would be pretty cool for an idea. And then I'm just gonna name some additional ones and additional villains that I came up with for this game. It's like a giant list, so I could make it bigger and better. Of course, Meldar Prime gonna be pulling the strings and watching your every move, things like that. But just some other ones. So let's just run through it. Plankton with Karen. It's just so many other characters. It's just like they deserve to be playable characters. They deserve to be playable instead of just being crew members. Plankton with Karen, Man Ray, who's not even in this game. Flats the Flounder, the Flying Dutchman, who's a crew member. He could be a boss. It's so much more. Doodlebot, Professor Calamitous, Evil Jimmy Neutron, the evil Jimmy with his giant head, King Goobot, and I already mentioned Meldar Prime, Shredder for TMNT, Bebop and Rocksteady, Karai, Morag from the Loud House, and some additional Loud House villains, something a little different. I don't see nobody talk about Hawk and Hank, so I don't know all the Loud House villains, so I just ended up putting them in it just for something different to be able to get added into the game. For some bosses that could try to slow you down. Vlad Plasmius, and then Ember, Johnny 13 with Shadow, and I also slipped in Desiree and the ultimate enemy himself, Evil Danny. And so much more that could be bosses for this giant campaign, or this huge story, or this roguelike story mode where SpongeBob and Patrick or SpongeBob and Mrs. Puff are going to be able to encounter together. I just couldn't think of, just any sort of matchup, just a duo. Maybe it'll probably be better for SpongeBob and Patrick, but I wanted to give Mrs. Puff a bigger role. She could be a good fit, so they could go either way with that. So those are the bosses and some of the forces of evil, I like to call this group, to be added into this game. And then some other tracks I came up with for the hub worlds for Retroville. You got Retroville, Retroland, Jimmy's Lab, Lindbergh School. There's so many different ones that they have that I wanted to add in. And then the Loud House, the Loud Castle, the Haunted Mansion Cemetery, and then they could bring back Where It Was Roundabout, even for shows like Danny Phantom, the Ghost Song. I pulled Clockwork's Lair, and then Amity Park, and then Pariah's Dark Keep. And then just so much more that they can do to add more into the play factor. Those are not going to be the only hub worlds. We're going to go down to New York, the streets of New York, run into Leonardo, Mikey, and all them. They're all going to challenge you. You're going to have to race against Leonardo. You're going to have to challenge Raphael, Donatello, and Mikey. They're gonna have their own challenge. And anything else, anybody remember what Reptar was a boss in Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2? Let's go to back to the challenges for a little bit. Nickelodeon Kart Racers 2 had Reptar as a boss, but you weren't racing just against Reptar. You had to race against Tommy, Chucky, and Reptar all into one. So maybe you can race against all 4 of the turtles in one big boss challenge, and you can unlock all 4 of them if you successfully win against them. Unless you want to challenge most of the turtles one-on-one, that could be a secret option to make it a little bit more difficult to beat Leonardo one-on-one, Mikey, Raphael, Donatello, all into one, or maybe just one at a time that you unlock. And once you beat their heroes challenge, once you conquer the hero challenge, they will join you, and you can also be able to finish the rest of the other tracks and get those slime trophies from that particular hub world and take on the villains from the bosses, like Shredder's villains, Han from the Purple Dragons, Karai that I also mentioned, Bebop and Rocksteady. They got a lot of villains that they could put into the game that from those hub worlds. They got a lot of different worlds that can go on. Ren and Stimpy and so much more. They got a lot of character options. Vexes from Tremerton. It's just so much that they can do. And I thought about putting all that in for this giant hub worlds that you could travel. So you're not just so it's not just boring and basic. Well, you're just playing the campaign and you're just playing 4 tracks and getting the trophies, and then you take on the boss and then you move on to the next area. I wanted to do more than that with this. That was the goal with this idea. And I wanted to, and last but not least, I wanted to add in a little bit of replay value. So playing through the story again, or this roguelike story that I created for Nickelodeon Kart Racers 4, you can be able to unlock secret costumes, paint jobs for specific characters, and a much bigger challenge included. So you have the replay value. You could get those additional trophies if you're a trophy hunter or an achievement hunter. For some of y'all out there that be trying to go for 100% and trying to get all the trophies in the games. Some people buy games. Some people buy some of these games just to play and just get the trophies, and then they stop playing the game. That's what their intentions are for buying some of these games. They just play and get these games for the trophies just to boost their achievement score. You get all the achievements in the game and all the trophies. If you're a hunter, a trophy hunter or achievement hunter, they'll go for those achievements and just play the game and try to get everything unlocked. So you have the replay value. And that's something else that I wanted to do for the final piece of this, for the story, is being able to unlock costumes for these characters. Characters like Eastman, Raphael, and Purple Reptar shouldn't be character slots. They can be unlockable costumes that you can get for some of these racers when you start playing the game. Paint jobs that you can look, so you can really try to flex online if you want. You flex online with some of the paint jobs that you have, just to show players that you completed the roguelike story twice on its ultra hard difficulty to get those certain special paint jobs. And they're not going to grant special stats or anything like that. So that way it's no sort of secret advantage. You can be able to get stuff and be able to earn, because they have different things and different unlockable conditions in this, where most of it requires you to win online. You could still be able to unlock most of these characters from playing the game and playing the story. Not just the online. It's just going to be characters that you can get, and then the slime tokens could be utilized that you can also earn from playing the story as well, to unlock other racers and crew members from the garage or from the shop. And so I thought that'll be something that could give the player more to do. So if you end up going through the story faster than what you anticipated, you could play it again for a bigger challenge and start unlocking additional things. And then on top of that, while you get the costumes and all the different rewards in the game, you can get those additional challenging trophies and achievements, whatever platform that you play on, to really be able to have bragging rights, just to brag about and just show the player base and the fan base that you made it through the story and you conquered the challenges. So I wanted to make this as creative as possible and also make it difficult on the player. So you have to know what you're doing, and it's trial and error a little bit where they'll catch up with you, but you got to make sure you win so you won't have to keep starting over against the gauntlets. Every hub is going to have a gauntlet of villains that's going to try to stop you and slow you down Meldar Prime, I think it's just one of the most iconic characters no one else is really talking about. And the fact that they got the rights to Jimmy Neutron, there's no way he can't get in and be able to play, be able to become a playable character and be the final boss for this story, since he's the one that's in control and calling the shots. So let me know what y'all think about this idea. I had fun putting this together. It's just so many characters that they could put in. This roster can be bigger than what it is. Plus, with the DLC, actual DLC, SpongeBob's going to be in for all the different challenges for just this journey. Whether he's with, I don't know what y'all think. Maybe he's better with being with Patrick, SpongeBob, Patrick, and the Paddy Wagon to take on this challenge and help save their world amongst others, and meeting these heroes along the way in their journey. Or maybe Mrs. Puff can have a bigger role to be able to trust, have no choice but to trust SpongeBob behind the wheel, and then she could probably eventually end up giving him his license, because not only did he perform well on the tracks, but he also saves the worlds and from destruction. That could be something that's iconic, and that's something that has never been done in the show, that it can actually become a reality when you start playing this story for a cool little ending. So let me know what y'all think. I think this would be a nice little combo, a nice little story that they could do. It's a good idea, and it just doesn't have to be so just something short, and on the short end it can be long lasting with a replay value for the players to enjoy this game.